Good afternoon and good evening, guys. We are
Hi.
here to discuss episode 10 of the arc.
Yes, we are.
So, how are you guys tonight? My lovely co hosts here with me. Of course, we have Marcia, and down below me,
Hi.
we have Elizabeth Bowman. So, how
Yes,
are you guys?
I am. I'm trying to see if I'm fully recovered from watching this last episode and the episode before. And I'm never quite sure. So.
Yeah, they kind of crammed episode 10 into all of what I thought was coming last season, but the wrong person.
Yeah.
So,
Mm, hmm.
what about you, Elizabeth?
Oh, well, yeah, it was a jam-packed episode, and I
Um,
almost have emotional whiplash from the the
Guys,
contrast
hang on a
between.
second. Hang on a second. It does
Okay.
not look like we're live for some reason.
Uh-oh.
Maybe we are.
I-
Go
Okay.
ahead and keep talking. I'm going to
Okay.
check something on another thing. So go ahead and keep talking to yourself.
Okay. Anyone hear me? Um, it seems like I mean I have emotional whiplash from the contrast between this episode and the last episode, and just how fast everything happened. Yes, I know it was decades in their coma, but
Hmm.
still, it threw me. It threw me. It seemed sudden.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot to put
Mhm.
into that one episode. It should have been you. And when I look at the episode titles, I try to figure out a little bit of what I think the episode is going to be about and who I think might say the episode title. And I was surprised by a few things in the episode, and I'm still trying to see whether I like what happened and what if I don't. and
And we're good to
and
go. I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Marcia. We're good to go.
Mhm. So yeah, I have my likes and dislikes, and I have something on my like list, and also have it on my dislike list.
Oh, no.
What would that be?
Yeah, tell us all.
Well, I
Yeah.
liked Garnett and Ian, and then I didn't like Garnett and Ian's
Okay.
relationship
That's fair. Me too.
because um, I thought that it was sweet in some ways, and then I thought it should have been it should have been Lane, and I didn't like it. I didn't like to see Garnett and Ian kissing and all that. And I was thinking that this is wrong. This is wrong. This is not the way it's supposed to be. How can she be in love with Ian? And is she really thinking that projecting? And maybe she's thinking that it's really Spencer, that whole thing. So,
You know, it's
but
funny. She said the
mhm,
same thing at the end. It should have been you,
yes.
which made me
Hmm.
think the exact same thing you said. Was all
Hmm.
those years she was projecting?
Hmm.
Because as the show was playing, I'm like, okay, it's been years and they're starting to get to know each other. They're the only two people. It's kind of gradual. They fell in love. But
Hmm.
then at the end, when she said that, it kind of whipped me back into reality. Wait a minute. Was she all those years projecting? Even though she had
Yeah.
told Ian, I don't like your beard. And he said, well, I grew it, so I would remind you not of Lane, but it would be me.
Hmm.
So kind of funny you thought the same thing.
um, did you, Elizabeth? Did that come to you at all, or?
Oh yeah. I mean, when he said, I only grew it because I didn't want to look like Lane, and her face just went like to
Mhm.
stone, and she was like, I didn't know, and it was like that was pretty much her wake up call, if she
Mhm.
chose to listen to it, that maybe she is projecting, but she didn't really seem to think much
Mhm.
about it, and just
Mhm.
went with what was going on there, and I mean, you know, it,
And
on
maybe,
the other hand, I'm like, if I were stuck with one person on a ship the rest of my life, how close would I be to them? You know what I mean? It's a weird dilemma.
Did you guys get a Passengers feel from this episode? The movie Passengers?
That's on
now,
my watch
n-
list.
now that you mention it, yes.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that. I was thinking more because somebody mentioned that it was kind of like a Star Trek Next Gen episode,
Mm.
Inner Light, which I went and
Uh-huh.
rewatched
I was going to
because
say
of
that one
that.
too. Yes.
Yeah. That one.
Yeah, their
And
whole lives. Yes.
mhm. And I went back and watched that. But I didn't get but Passengers also. Yes, I see that now.
Yeah, I
And
combined the two.
yeah. hmm It and that was a powerful episode. That the Star Trek episode.
Oh
And
goodness, was it?
mhm.
And how much time had passed with him? Was it 45 minutes or something? At the
Yeah,
time Picard was unconscious?
that was all.
Yeah.
And and that was
His
that
children,
was
his grandchildren. Ugh.
oh my goodness. It was heartbreaking. And when I think of this episode, and I think I mentioned it in the group, is I wonder if their memory is going to fade eventually, like a dream does. Sometimes you wake up and at least I do sometimes, and I dreamt something so vivid that I think I'll never forget. And lo and behold, I kind of it kind of eventually drifts away, and I have to really grasp at the memory of those dreams. So I wonder if eventually that'll happen to them.
I was thinking along those lines as well, but I also thought,
hmm
what if they stay, especially in current? Maybe they'll
hmm
drift apart in time, but right
hmm
now both of them have this super strong feeling of being a
Yeah.
couple and being married for God knows how many years, maybe
Yeah.
30 years married, because it looked like they were probably in their late 80s, early 90s when they
Yeah.
passed.
Yeah.
You know, so there's got to be that connection, that love there, especially for Ian. How is he going to deal with it? I see Garnett pushing him away because of
hmm
it, but I see him being so in love with her that he doesn't change. But we
hmm
also seem to have found a decent um, job for him, shall we say, definitely with engineering.
hmm
What
And
you
I
guys
want
think of that jaw dropping part about the doctor? That had me by surprise.
bang.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, you didn't.
Yeah. When they first showed his scars and he said what they were from, I was what?
And you didn't think to mention that to
Yeah.
anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And he made sure to clarify it right away because I was like, why would anybody,
yeah.
want to do that? But then he was like, well, I was a young idealistic med student. I wanted to do, and I'm like, okay, maybe,
And
but
maybe there was some money involved.
yeah,
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
gotta pay for med school somehow, right? Right?
hmm
The student loans are killer, but yeah, that was definitely a shocker.
And they quickly compressed that explanation. Okay. Oh well, I did it when I was in school, and yes,
Uh-huh.
and I don't have them. And then it was failed, and
Yeah, yeah,
I had to go
Yeah,
back and watch it again.
they did not give us much time on that one.
no,
No. So I had to go back and watch, and I said, "What did they say?" Okay, he did it for money. He went to school. They didn't work, and and what? And so they put that in there for a reason. Obviously, what do you think the reason? How that's might come into play?
I don't know.
I think some of it. I mean, obviously, I mean, as he said in a previous episode, the med school he went to was Maddox's, med school, and
Mhm.
and he, I mean, this just, we've been saying, where's Evelyn? Is she coming back? And I was like,
Mhm.
this is going to be some kind of tie-in, I'm sure, to her coming back. Um, I mean, as the episode progressed, and he talked a little bit more about it because he was sure it was just there to control his implants, and they
Mm-hmm.
took all of his implants out except for that because he said it was too dangerous to remove it. But then he started having problems, and
So they removed it. Yeah.
so Kabir removed it um, because it was more dangerous to leave it in at that point. But you know, what we don't know, I mean, and what I'm guessing is that Evelyn did continue with that program, just obviously not on him. I mean, but she
Yeah.
has so many other people to work on, and um, is it gonna play into Kelly? Is it
I
gonna
don't
play
know.
somewhere else? We'll find out.
It
Um,
almost makes me wonder something that I've actually thought about since the end of the first season. We have mentioned Kelly's father so many times, and he's this person. But in the back of my mind, it's been playing. Could he be Kelly's donor for her being a father? Might not be the man known as the father, but could he be the sperm donor for it? Because they were already doing research with him. Who's to say other things weren't already affected
True.
his
Awesome.
biological functioning?
That would certainly be a reason for them to put that in there, to reveal Marsh's connection to that. That would certainly make
Yeah.
sense.
And
Makes sense.
yeah, and if he's aware of that fact, it might also make sense of his protectiveness of Kelly
True.
beyond him having been a an
Experiment
attempted
himself.
post-human, a
Yeah.
failed
Mhm.
post-human, as he referred to himself.
And
And
that also
obviously,
makes
ahead.
me
I'm
wonder
sorry.
too, if he was a failed post-human, how many other post-humans are there out there then that
And at
were
what
either
varying
failed
degrees of
or whatever? Yeah.
what varying degrees of success have they had?
Uh-huh.
So yeah, it could be a lot to
Makes
this
me think of the
storyline.
island where they had the experimental, the movie where they had I think there was a series too, where they had the experimental humans with blending them with animals and things like that, and genetic experiments
Oh, I
and
remember that, but
a
I can't
bunch
think
of
of the name of it.
Dr.
failed
Robot?
things. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
that's it. Thank you.
I know a little bit about the plot line, but I haven't seen it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's a really interesting thought. I'm gonna write that down
Yeah.
and see if
Yeah.
that
That
if
could be
that
coming
comes
very much so.
into play. But yeah. And I thought the makeup this on
Oh,
what did you think of
go ahead.
the makeup on Garnett and Ian was really well done and subtle too.
I loved her hair as as she got older,
Oh.
her hair got longer, and that braid off to the side. I thought that was
Yeah.
really pretty.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And and Ian bald. I can't see Reese Ritchie bald. I'm sorry. That no.
That was kind of
No, no, no.
Hey, it happens to the best of them.
Yeah, but that's one look they could have kept.
You
I'm
know,
sorry. They could have made him
it
look like a
happened to
nice
Patrick Stewart. I
dignified.
mean, you know.
Yeah, but Patrick Stewart was all bald, not just the forehead.
Oh, boy.
Don't get me wrong. I think bald men are attractive, but let's go all the way here.
Maybe they couldn't find a razor. Well, then again, he had to have had a razor at some point to shave the beard. But, you know, maybe 50 years later it was malfunctioning. Who knows?
I love how she found that dress in the Remember Earth box, though.
Yeah.
Aw.
I literally just rewatched this episode an hour ago, and I was scribbling down notes. And if you guys remember from Pavle's interview with the panel, I know he mentioned being left-handed. Well, and he said, you know, this, and can you see the ink on my hands? Because I am left-handed.
Oh, a little bit, yeah.
Scribbling down my notes. So yeah, lefties unite. But that was weird because she came in and she said, "Do you like it? I found it in the Remember Earth box." And as she's like turning around, he gets down on one knee and she says, "Really now?"
Mm.
And it's like, did she not know that he was going to propose? And if so, why is she wearing a white dress? Or was it the only dress in the box? Or
I think it was the only
the way it was written was kind of
awkward.
scrambled to me, and yet it was still cute.
I think it was probably the only evening dress type
Could
to say
be.
was in the box, but it was a wedding dress, very obviously.
Clearly, yeah.
And I think he had been the reason why she said that was really now it's like, you could have said it how many months or maybe
Oh,
years earlier. It's like he took too long. It's like, really?
right.
Now you do this after all this time? And it was their date night. So it
Yeah.
makes perfect for a proposal.
Yeah.
I would have actually liked to have seen more of their relationship over the years. It seemed it was so truncated that it almost gave me, like Elizabeth again, was giving me whiplash too. I was thinking, wait a minute, now they're here, and now it's 15 years later, now it's 20 years later, and now they're old, and now they're gonna jump out the, the window.
That end was one thing that drove me nuts.
Mm.
Because
Mhm.
how can you have the airlock or whatever it is open and them
Yeah.
just
They
standing
would have
there?
been sucked right out. Right.
There's no shield, exactly.
If physics were correct in their coma, but also, I mean, remember, physics already was messed up in their coma because they went through a wormhole and ended up exactly back where they started in the wormhole.
Uh-huh.
So, as my husband and I were watching this, and I said, do you still think that, just the fact that everybody else is missing is the problem here? I think this is all happening in their heads. So, and
Yeah,
I
that
guess,
was weird.
yeah, which also then brings me to question, what is this mind control chip? I mean, obviously, this was an earlier version of it. If it happened back when Marsh was in med school.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, even then later in the episode, they were talking about, when Kabir and Trust and Bryce were all sitting down talking about, the chip and how they could possibly use it to get Ian and Sharon back out of the coma. They said, Trust said, well, after she took over my company, she must have continued with the program. And I'm like, but Marsh has been a doctor for, did he say like 12, 14 years?
Yeah, something like
So
that.
the timing was a little weird there too, but as far as the chip itself is concerned and how it worked or malfunctioned, it was like, I mean, obviously Marsh didn't know how to control it. He didn't even know he had something in his head that would do that.
Yeah.
So something subconscious he passed to them that they would wake up in the ship without anybody else. But then it was like, once he left, how are the other two, like, how are their consciousnesses influencing each other? I guess, it's like, I mean,
Yeah. Oh, that's a bit weird. The
yeah.
other thing was, okay, Marcia and her med bays, and Marcia and a certain project we will not talk about. I now have one that's getting to me. How did all three of them wake up in med bay when they passed out in engineering with the FTL? But now they're all three in med bay, hooked up to IVs, the whole bit. How did that happen? Did they just project in their mind? Okay, we're passing out. We're going to wake up in med bay.
Yeah,
Or did
somebody
he
would have
pass
brought
that
us
on
there.
through his connection that he had, his implants? That was a little weird to me.
Yeah, and yet, I mean, well, considering that Marsh is a doctor, it's almost like that would be the default place he would begin from.
Okay.
I mean, just throwing an idea out here. I have
No,
no
actually, it makes sense.
who
Yeah.
knows how this thing works. But as a doctor, he'd be like, okay, I remember getting shocked, and then somebody would have brought us to medbay. Well, you're right. If they're the only ones there and they're not conscious, it didn't play out. But again, physics doesn't work the same way here, so
Exactly. Okay, you have a point.
it's. I mean, it is in its own way a dream world. I'm like, I was thinking about all the different ways that they use the observation deck as kind of the main the main set for the
Yeah.
coma. You know, both from them having dinner with Marsh in the beginning, and then so on. Just the different ways they rearranged furniture in there and everything. I'm like, well, that took a lot of effort for 2 or 3 people.
Mhm.
Well,
So
if you have all the time
Yeah.
in the world
you have
and you're
all the time
just
in the
you
world.
and you're bored,
Yeah.
although the one thing that I kind of wanted to loop back around, and you kind of reminded me of it, Elizabeth, was okay, Ian has a place possibly now as an engineer, but all those years he studied all those books, he probably has more knowledge now than who
Mm.
knows, maybe even trust.
Good
Because he
point.
spent from day one to that till the day they woke up studying and studying everything. And he was saying certain lines of things from engineering that sounded like it was much higher level education that even, let's say, Ava would have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's true, but then then my skeptical mind also then goes, but if this was all going on in their heads, if that was knowledge he didn't already have, how would it have gotten into a coma with them? You know, if none of the 3 of them had that knowledge, and obviously if
Mm-hmm.
Marsh is the the person who got them in there in the first place, he had medical knowledge, but I mean, could they still actually tap into the computer in this state? And if they could, yes, then yeah, then he would be a heck of a lot smarter 40, 50 years later.
Well,
And
you saw them
yeah,
physically tapping into very simple, like the door to, the bay that opened up out to outer space. You saw
right.
that. I wouldn't really call that an air pocket or pod or anything. Looks like more something that'd be used like for a shuttle or something. The way it was bigger, but you saw
Mm-hmm.
them physically doing that. So why couldn't they physically work the computer?
Hmm.
I mean, they could. Well, yeah. I mean, they could physically work the computer, but I mean, also in reality, we didn't see an airlock open either. I mean, that was still in there. I don't know. To me, it's something that this episode could only fit so much in 42 minutes, and there was so much that I felt like led
In
us to
other
all of these questions rather than more answers.
in other words, we're digging too deep.
Well,
Go
I
ahead.
kind of think sometimes they do put in things on purpose, and that maybe if we do talk about it and figure things out, we'll figure out the purpose for that. I'm hoping that it's just not something that they either didn't think about or said, "Oh well, we'll just do it because," that kind of thing. I'm hoping it means something. That's what I am. When the talk about the knowledge again, refer back to Star Trek. This is the original series this time. You remember Spock's brain,
Oh yeah.
where he got all the knowledge, where Bones got all the knowledge to be able to perform the operation,
Uh-huh.
but it only lasted for a certain, only lasted for a while, and then he started to forget. Um, so again, I wonder if all that stuff that happened to them is going to become distant memories and maybe just wisps of memory.
Or
And
will it become like
mhm,
Jack on Stargate, where he got
uh,
downloaded with all of that information and can't get rid
mhm.
of it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good one too. Yeah,
which
And
makes
don't
me
forget,
think
we have Jonathan Glaster's hand on all this.
that's
that's
true.
true.
Which that makes me then think of the old Far Side cartoon with the kid raising his hand in class. May I be excused? My brain is full. So yeah, that was Jack. That was yeah.
Mhm. Well, and another thing I was thinking, where maybe we should talk about this later, but I want to know where this all leads. What was the real purpose in this episode?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was this all about? Was it about the obvious, which is Garnett's grief mainly, And if so, how did that help her? In the end, she kind of comes to grips with him and says deceased on the
Yeah.
screen.
Mhm.
Was that the purpose of this episode, do you think? The whole purpose of the main purpose of this episode?
No, I think there's much more hidden that we either didn't catch or we
Mm-hmm.
caught, but we don't understand it yet. Going back to like Marsh and his implants.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that they're going to take into season 3 as a plot line for season 3, and they have it there now? The other thing I noticed that really kind of made me raise my eyebrow a little bit was Lane and his funeral. It is the first time that we have actually seen a funeral, and they took something straight out of Star
Yes,
Trek.
they did.
100% straight. And any other time now, I guess we've gotten to where we don't need the human mulch inside the mulch to make the fertilizer.
Right.
Remember, that's how they were doing
Oh, yes, the NOPs or whatever they called it.
Yeah.
The NAPs.
The NORD.
The NOR.
Yeah,
Yeah.
natural organic reduction drug. Yeah.
So, okay, we don't need that anymore for the NOR. And then we had the perfect Star Trek send-off.
Yes.
I don't know whether it was they didn't need it or whether they made an exception for him because of his position, his heroics, the fact that the peace talk, it was symbolic, I guess, as well. I mean, yes, they've lost a lot of people. They put a lot of people in the Nord by now, over almost 2 seasons so far. But whether they can afford to lose, like, just turn that off for the rest of their trip, I don't know.
It was emotional, I'll tell you that. It got me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, Marcia, when you mentioned, was this whole episode just to deal with Garnet's grief? And I'm like, other than the funeral, we didn't. And then at the very end, where she marks him as deceased and says it should have been you, we don't see her dealing much with her grief because, I mean, we see her, at the very beginning of it all, she's trying to distance herself from Ian, just can't stand to look at him because of his resemblance. But then suddenly, it's only a few months, like you've been working on that for months, so we know a few months have passed, and all of a sudden she's, grinning at him across the table, and I'm like, where is the grief? I mean, it's got to take more than a few months.
Some people, yes, some people no.
When I was thinking about dealing with the grief and using that, as somebody said, the coma phase, is because she, in order to deal with her grief, she actually had to live through a life with Lane. Not because it wasn't really Ian, in my opinion, it was really Lane, and so she actually lived through her life as if it was a satisfying journey with Lane, so that now she could finally say, okay, I had my life with you, and now I'm ready to say goodbye. Not really ready, but I can say goodbye now because we had our life together. But I'm still confused by it.
Yeah,
that's possible.
Because wasn't it? We might have already mentioned it that the writer, no, or was it Chrissy who said they were going to say it could have been, it should have been, it could have been you.
Yeah, that was what Chrissy wanted.
Yeah. That but they decided to go with it should have been you, which put a whole different spin on it. And then we have Angus and Alicia.
Oh my God. And getting sex education. That was horrible.
Wasn't it?
It was horrible.
It was. And the timing was just really, why now? I mean, another commenter mentioned on Facebook somewhere that You know, there was so much that they could have done just with the Ian and Sharon subplot in the coma that we have all these questions, you know, and but then there were these other subplots going on, Angus and Alicia, Bryce and his anxiety and micromanagement and so on, and you know, it's like if we had dialed back just a little more on those, maybe we would have had more of what the viewers wanted to see,
Which was
the A plot, you know, the Sharon and Ian. And
I still think we needed to see the little bit that we did see of Bryce and his anxieties.
Well, yeah, I mean,
and that. So I think there was just enough of that.
Yeah.
It's just there were some other things though.
So you didn't like the? How did you feel about the Alicia Angus?
Yeah. with Angus come across looking like Bryce, that threw me. It's like no, don't do that. Don't do that.
Hey, baby. It was pretty funny.
Apparently, Alicia liked it.
Apparently, Alicia did go for it because she, yeah. Which makes me wonder, because some people were shipping Bryce and Alicia.
Oh, early on, I was one of those that was early on, yeah.
So maybe that technique kind of, and then of course in the alternate universe.
Yeah.
Oh my.
I think Alicia likes the bad boys.
They were together on that. I thought they had their own quarters. That bed seemed to be so tiny. It's like
I would think both of them should have their own quarters, considering, well, I don't know necessarily about Angus, but Alicia should.
Yeah.
She's part of the bridge crew.
Mm-hmm.
And they were told all bridge officers got their own quarters.
Yes.
Yeah. She said all the senior staff and all the senior and command staff was the way she put it when she said when they were giving out quarters.
So I would think that they would have a little more space, but maybe they did that for the intimacy of the shot to make it kind of.
Yeah, well, I would have fallen off that bed too when she and Angus first tried to do something.
You didn't have enough room to do.
It's like trying to do it when you go in to see your doctor. You know, that little tiny bed you go to sit on with your doctor. That's what it reminded me.
Yes, it was quite tiny, and I thought it was kind of cute, but I almost wish they had spent a little bit. They would have had a place where they could have spent a little bit more time with that if they were going to show that. It seemed that they wanted to have a few more subplots, so either they could pay the actors and have them do some lines or something like that, rather than a true meaty subplot. Although the scene with Angus and Bryce with the drinks was kind of funny.
That was funny.
I tell you, I would not touch that drink. It sounded disgusting to me. Mango,
basil, pomegranate daiquiri.
Yeah, it was the basil that threw me.
Is that a real drink?
I have no idea. I mean, if it is,
I'm not touching it. If it is
the Bryce, I mean, I'm not much of a drinker. I'm going, might make an interesting fruit salad.
Oh, I don't like anything with basil anyway. So,
you know, what did you just grab something that was on the ground? Oh, basil. Let me put that.
I don't know.
Put some herbs in here and see if it works.
So now, I wonder if anybody's going to try that drink. Oh, maybe we should.
I was thinking the same thing. Try to make it.
Mm-hmm. And see what. And see, we'll tell them to do that in New Orleans and see what they come up with. But I thought that Bryce's grief was shown really well when they were in the conference room, and the expression that he gave to Eva when they were talking about Lane was really
Yes,
heartfelt. I thought that was beautiful.
I did
I
too.
thought, yeah.
What'd you think about Eva getting all of her seniority and command and everything back for engineering? I
Mm,
wasn't so sure on that one.
I agree with you, Liz. Arc 54, excuse me.
No.
Oh, I don't know who I am today. I change names so often.
I agree with you about that.
I mean, I agree that, on the one hand, yeah, Truss had more seniority and more knowledge. On the other hand, as Garnett said at the beginning when the two of them were having their shouting match and she came in to referee and Sasha called her and he says, "Aren't you worried that she lied to you?" And she said, "How many times have you lied to me?"
Exactly.
So it's more, do you want the person managing who is the most trustworthy from a command standpoint, or do you want the person who's most technically knowledgeable but might throw some curveballs and do things that you don't want them to do?
So you don't think that Trust has turned over a new leaf?
Mhm.
I think he's taking the same leaf and turning it over and over and over again.
Yes,
I think
exactly.
you've seen both sides of the same leaf from him.
Yes.
And I think that I'm not sure that he's actually obtained another new leaf, much less turned it over. So I feel like he's very pragmatic, as we've seen, and he will just yeah. Well, as far as his ego will allow him, he will go along with whatever he thinks he needs to do to survive and to get where he feels he needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously his ego was not at first. At the beginning of the episode, his ego was not having, being demoted to somebody who only learned everything they knew from his own books.
I know.
He's right about that.
Yeah.
And he was right with a lot of other things because Eva did not know that he had redirected things when
Right.
I'm assuming it was when she was still in custody, when it had those issues and he had to redirect certain things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he pointed that out.
Yeah.
So I think it should have been almost a joint. You both are here, but you check each other's work.
Yeah. And I think Sharon missed a critical opportunity with one word there in the beginning where when they were shouting and she was trying to mediate and she said, "Well, I didn't say you couldn't help." She said, "I didn't say you couldn't consult." Now that would have fed
that would
ego.
have worked. Yes.
That would have cleared up the whole problem right off the bat. I felt
Good
like.
point.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm like, usually she's better about that kind of stuff. I was surprised, but then again, she's grieving. She's got Ian following around, which is, like the black cloud over her head. She just didn't want to, So I can understand her using not exactly the right words, but yeah.
So you think Trust and Eva, do you think that they will be able to work together better now?
No. I still think there's going to be a lot of fireworks.
I think there's going to be sparks. I think, Eva, I don't know that I wouldn't necessarily call it her ego. I would just say that she has so much skin in the game from keeping the ship running for 4 or 5, however many months every day.
It's her baby now.
It is her baby, and I don't see that as an ego thing for her, but just as an invested. She is so invested in her work.
Yeah.
Where obviously with Trust, it's ego first, and everything else can just go out the airlock. And then, well, now I also wonder. Throwing Ian in the mix as well, because obviously it did either of you see the preview for the next episode?
I did.
Okay, because there is one brief bit where they show him looking at something in engineering and making a comment about it, and I'm like, well, obviously then this is the job that they did end up giving him, and that's good for him. But
oh yeah.
it's been kind of weird in that from the beginning of the season where the people came in from Arc 15 and, we now have a full engineering staff as it is from Arc 15 who we've heard all of 3 lines from them, I think, all season. Like the one girl who said, "Do you want to check my work?" very early on, and Bryce was
Yeah,
like, "Yeah, it looks great."
And we haven't seen her since.
I know.
I have seen that actress in the background, but she has not had a speaking line. No, so I mean, what's going to happen next there? And
Yeah.
Ian, although he wasn't great as a mediator in the previous episode, he still is a little more diplomatic. He's definitely more diplomatic than Lane. He's more diplomatic
definitely.
than Ava. He's more diplomatic than Trust. So he might be able to help the 2 of them get along better. But how well,
It's funny. I really did not like Ian when he first came on board.
But
he is really starting to grow on me. And I think I said last week, I do not see much of a difference between him and Lane. And I know that Reese was trying to make them both very different regarding their speech and other things. And I still don't see that much difference in the speech. But I do see a difference in, I guess, attitude would be the way I would look at it. The way they present themselves are completely different. I do like that.
Yeah.
That's catching.
I saw a little bit, and this brings me back to the coma thing, actually. I saw a bit of a difference. I mean, yeah, you hear the language a bit. For us as Americans, it's probably not as obvious as it is to a British person how different those 2 accents are. I've seen difference in his mannerisms. But what struck me about the coma thing, like I said, Sharon, we see her, a couple of months in and she's already not as stressed out as she normally seems. And I'm like, how much of that is Ian and Marsh's, and then Marsh disappears. How much is that from their influence on her? And how much of that is not having the stress, just generally not having the stress, the day-to-day of command hanging over her head. And I thought, if Lane had been in this situation, would he have behaved, after a couple of months, wouldn't he be behaving just the same way as Garnet? Because we saw he had his playful moments with her all throughout both seasons. So if he weren't as stressed out, would he still be Eeyore? Or would he be a little more cheerful, a little more playful? And so it was almost like, as Marcia said, maybe it was Sharon playing out her hopes that she had, her dashed hopes that she had with Lane.
Possibly.
Playing house with Ian. So,
yeah. And
Ian may have just inadvertently played into that, even. So it's hard to know. But yeah, I guess what I've noticed most in the difference between the 2 really has been some of the mannerisms. But I felt like the mannerisms were then toned down in this episode. So it's like as time went on, he started to look more like Lane, an older Lane to me, not necessarily as like an older and more relaxed Lane, but his mannerisms had gone back a bit somehow. So
I didn't catch that. Okay.
We do have a comment, I see.
Oh, we do? Oh, I thank you for catching it. Hang on. Oh, Michael.
Good point.
Hang on, Michael.
There we go.
Yeah. I don't.
Good point, Michael.
Well, go ahead and read it out loud, Elizabeth.
Well, Michael says that he doesn't think that they've shown everything that Ian tried to do with the diplomacy. And I mean, Marcia said in her comments in Facebook about that scene, the negotiations were short. And I mean, that was all we saw. It was kind of short. But I mean, but as a human being, I mean, even when they first introduced him and Milo and the other clones in episode 6, he was a lot more diplomatic even than Milo. And that's kind of why a lot of us thought he was the leader. But remember, Milo was down front leading everybody and telling, the guy who wanted to still stab him, you leave it. And, and so it was almost like, he stepped forward and he he was leading it, or at least being a little more diplomatic, maybe because Milo knew, but then also, I mean, because Milo knew that he was more diplomatic and it might help them in that situation. I mean, it's more in his nature, I think, to be diplomatic, maybe even than Lane.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, my train of thought just derailed. So carry on without me. I'll see if I can get it back. Go ahead.
When you say with episode 6, with you didn't realizing that Milo was the leader, I thought Ian was the leader as well too, and I thought that Milo was deferring to him. I know within a lot of group structures like that, the leader will be in the back and kind of protected by those in the front.
Right.
And until it comes forward to bring them out, they're kind of kept in the back. I wouldn't say hidden, but kind of you don't really see them, and you don't see the roles that they play, and yes, protected. So that's kind of how I thought it was. But I like how you had actually mentioned not so much, and you caught certain things about Milo saying, no, go ahead and, and put the knife down, everything's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we saw 2 episodes later that Milo
wasn't quite
a little more of a leader than, or at least he was pushing to be. He had all kinds of skills that we didn't know about, that even Ian didn't know about. But yeah, I feel like, as Michael said, they may not have shown everything Ian tried to do with the diplomacy in the particular scene in the previous episode where they were negotiating with the EF. But I think that in general, yes, he does seem to have more of a bent towards diplomacy than several other characters. And mediation.
Yeah.
And maybe they're going to need that.
Yeah.
Later on, in only 2 more episodes to go. Oh no!
No, better get a renewal. I mean, it's just been it's been a whirlwind this season, that's for sure.
You can't catch your breath. I thought last season was incredible. This season has been like blown out of the water with things.
Yeah.
I think they really have packed more into the episodes
this
season.
Oh yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was JP who said in his interview, he said something about we crammed 3 episodes worth.
3 episodes into one, yeah.
And I would have said that last season. I would say this season it's more like 5 or 6.
I know.
My brain is full by the time. Maybe excuse my brain is full after watching an episode.
And I have missed Evelyn. Has anybody missed Evelyn?
Well, I mean, we got to talk to her this afternoon.
No, yes, but
that was a sweet actress. That wasn't evil.
But that was great. But yeah, in the episodes, I keep looking for her and say, okay, this will be the time when she comes in. This will be.
Yeah, you kind of keep looking for a starship outside.
Yes.
One thing. Speaking of that, do you think anything that had to do with the nebula and the wormhole have anything into play that might be coming? There was just like little things that were dropped throughout the entire show that seemed to me shouldn't have been there unless they're opening up something for later.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they weren't just there to be pretty. I mean, it would, because I mean, when I look at the whole visual environment of that coma, their coma, just I mean, the changes in their appearances, the changes in what they were wearing, the changes in the way they arranged the environment, just I don't know. To me, if it was just just to be pretty, just to be rewarding for them for going through space. Um, I guess my question is, how did he even get to a nebula if he hadn't fixed the FTL by then? But yeah, whether that's going to play into Maddox coming back, no idea.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how. Well, I figured they're all going to be going toward, I think, toward this planet. They're all going to meet up somewhere, or I wonder if. No, I'm throwing out wild ideas now.
Oh,
So
throw 'em out.
maybe that
Maybe.
Evelyn has put some kind of tracking device on the Ark, and she knows where they've been all this time, and that she's kind of following them, and she's going to meet up with them somewhere or get there before they do, something like that. She's got something up her sleeve.
She has a living, breathing tracking device already on Ark. Do you honestly think that they have found all of Kelly's implants?
Well,
Good
Kelly
point.
and maybe Marsh's too. We don't even know
Exactly,
if
or
Marsh
Marsh.
has a tracking
Ooh,
device.
yeah.
So I mean, she could have, she could have 2 points of data right there. Plus, I mean, if those 2 people, I mean, and then how many other people came over from Arc 15 that we don't know whether she experimented on them or not, including our young lady in engineering who wanted to know if Bryce wanted to check on her. So, I mean, it could be anybody. It could be everybody.
Could be everybody.
Yeah,
I started to wonder, is everybody either EF, a clone, both, or a genetic, what is a posthuman, or is pick a side, pick, take your pick, get the hat and drop in and say, okay, I'm a posthuman, I'm a clone, I'm a Gen 3, I'm a Gen 2, I'm EF.
Make up your mind.
So I want to ask you, if you were, I sound like Jag now. If you were on the show, what would you want to be? EF, Asian Federation? Would you want to be GSA? Would you want to be a posthuman? Would you want to be a Gen 3? No, but what would you want to be?
I don't know. It's the crazy life I have around here, and being a Gen 3 would probably be easy.
I'm sorry.
Can't get any crazier.
So Gen 3, okay. I'm trying to think. This question popped into my mind. I better be coming up with an answer too, huh?
Yeah. Make you come up with one too. It's hard to say. I mean, I feel like I don't have enough information to know whether I want to be EF or GSA or somewhere in between. I would, as of right now, what we know of both, I'm not that thrilled with either. So I don't know that I would want to be either.
So is there somebody? I guess there are, because I was thinking again of military, because military is need to know. So there are people on the ship who are just doing what they're supposed to be doing, have no clue.
Right.
The GSA, whatever, they're just trying to survive and trying to get to another planet. I'll probably be one of those.
Now, I think all that kind of got thrown out the second everything failed, when all the pods started opening during the initial disaster with Cannon. I think all that's like, okay, we're all here now.
It's like a melting pot of
everybody knows what's going on, but there are secrets everybody's keeping too, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, somebody made the reference in an interview about it being like in Lost when the plane crashed and they all woke up, and everybody had this ability to kind of remake themselves into present themselves as whomever they wanted to be. And we do have aspects of that. So There's also there is the command structure, and I know that our three lieutenants were trying, at least at first, to follow that command structure. But as Ava said in the previous episode, um, I was angry at GSA leadership, but that's not who any of you are.
Yeah.
And that's not who anyone has shaken out to be, if you will. It's like they're not as ideologically locked into the decades old war between the EF and the
Right.
GSA. So yeah.
So the revelation about the GSA and the Eastern Federation, did that change your opinion of the Eastern Federation or the GSA now that we know they're not all goody two shoes? Well, because when Trust was talking about the decisions that people have to make,
Mm-hmm.
there are tough decisions that somebody has to make.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And would it have been the best thing for the human race to sacrifice some in order to save others? Does that make them the bad guy, or does that make them the people who had to make the decision?
I don't know. I mean, if you look at then you go back and you look at the other you episode
Mm-hmm.
where we had the alternate and we had Lane's father, and if Lane's father were still alive, then we might assume that he was successful in developing and deploying
Yeah.
that weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And when you looked at the people on the ship, I mean, on the one hand, you had um, Alicia saying, I couldn't even afford to go to college. So,
Mm-hmm.
but she could or she could in their regular reality where that weapon hadn't been deployed, and after Arc One left. I mean, obviously that's when all these things started snowballing. It sounded like that
It doesn't sound like Angus's brilliance was ever noted either.
yeah,
Security.
he went into security instead of
Mm-hmm. I always thought that was weird that they put Alicia, who had all those degrees, in sewer management.
waste management.
That
Yeah.
was
It might have just been a scenario where she said, "Look, I want to get on this ship by any means necessary. I'm going to apply for every job that's open." I shouldn't say any means necessary because obviously she didn't seek out and try to get to know people so that she could get on like Kat did, or like the guy who was murdered in the pilot,
The
yeah.
pilot.
Jasper Days.
Jasper Days,
Jasper.
or Malcolm Perry, or whatever his
Malcolm
real
Perry.
name was. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think it was any means any means available to her, which to her was, I'm going to apply for everything and see if I can, maybe, she had so many college degrees. Maybe she thought, if I can just get in the door at this school, I can switch majors later.
Well, it's a good thing she did, isn't it?
And like
Yeah.
herself, if I can
They'd
get
be
on
literally up the creek without a paddle.
up the
They would be
yeah,
up the sewer creek.
Yeah.
waste management.
So, this was a Kelly-less episode. A Kelly.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was weird, but then again, at the same time, it was like, how are we going to fit that subplot in here with all these other subplots when we want to see more of the A plot this time, we being me, I can't speak for everyone else, but
I miss seeing the hole in the wall again. We've been having it every episode.
And Lottie is now on the other side of it. We haven't seen Lottie
I know.
for 3 episodes.
And I still wonder
is she still alive?
what is going on between those two, because when Lottie was first put in there, remember what Kelly says and the tone she used, and obviously it scared Lottie to death. So what else do we not know that those two know?
Oh my gosh, I forgot what she did. What did she say?
Hello, Kelly.
Hello, Lottie.
Oh, hello, Lottie. That's right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was like, hi there.
It was
Diabolical.
you're very diabolical.
Mhm.
Okay. Yes. Okay. I remember now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of surprised me that we didn't see Kelly for any time at all.
Yeah.
I do think I agree with you that that would have taken too much time from what else was going on in the
Yeah.
episode. Uh, I'm want to see what's going to happen between Ian and Garnett now. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really anxious to see what's going to happen. And like I said, I like what you had said in the beginning, Marcia,
Mhm.
that was it just a covered mask and she was living her life out with Lane.
Mm.
So
That would be
'cause
super
I kind of
tragic.
had that feeling too.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, maybe time has gone on and she's learned to love Ian. But then there at the end, when she makes that final declaration, when she's talking to his picture, it should have been you. It kind of, like I said, it kind of snapped me back to reality of it. It's like, okay, is she just covering her feelings? Was that a whole life she just lived with Lane? So
Do you
it'll be
think she
interesting.
was being mean? Oh, so I've seen some people say that they thought that Garnett was being cruel to Ian by pulling away.
I don't think she was being cruel intentionally, but I
Mhm.
think it was very hurtful. Yes.
I think her intention was more to shield herself, and that
Yeah.
Mhm.
in that he and others may have seen that as cruel.
Right.
But I don't think that was her primary intention. No.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No.
I mean, because she did then, when things went wrong in engineering, and she turned to him and said, "You want a job?" It was like she didn't write him off right then either. It
Mhm.
occurred to her, oh,
Yeah.
maybe this will solve the problem
Mhm.
he's presented me with that
Mhm.
I didn't want to deal with.
A-
Um,
And another question is, Eva and Bryce is all kissy kissy now, or
I
Not if he
still
keeps
sense some tension.
micromanaging.
hmm?
Not if he keeps micromanaging, but it seems like he's gotten that out of his system.
I still sense a little tension between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
I really do, like a
Mm-hmm.
little stiffness,
Mm-hmm.
especially on Eva's part. A little stiffness still.
Yeah. I still think she might be hiding something
Oh,
else.
it wouldn't surprise me because what was that mission that she and
Yes.
What
William
was
were supposed to be on?
what was the
Yes.
mission? And then we also sort of thought that maybe Sasha knew more about the EF than
Uh
he
huh.
was on,
Yes.
and or is he part of it?
Exactly.
So yeah, there could be something going on there. Very much
Mhm.
so. Very much so.
Mhm.
But now that we've become friends, well, at least with EF2, can't say anything about EF1, the other ship, but with EF2, it seems like we're good partners. Especially, I thought that was really kind of nice that they wrote in they came back for them. They figured
Yes.
out they weren't with them, they came back. So I thought that was
That
Yeah,
pretty
was.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
that was cool. I like Avega. I look forward to seeing
I do
him
too.
more often.
Yeah.
I hope that we keep him for a
Let's
while.
let's find a
We
ship for
should.
him.
Well, he's.
Oh, you mean a ship? He already has a ship, the
I was
EF2
going to
No,
say,
I
already
mean
ship. Okay. Yeah.
oh, that kind of ship.
That kind of ship. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, let's see.
Hmm.
Naomi?
Hmm.
Hmm.
How about Naomi?
Yeah, I
I'm
haven't
sorry.
seen her shipped with anybody.
I haven't seen her ship with anybody either.
Naomi.
Okay,
Oh.
Jessica, you're up. You're the next one.
She might like that a lot.
Well, I mean, Griff did say she liked older men too, though. So there is that.
Or was that a lie? So that she could get next to Marge to
I think
watch
that was
him.
more of a lie.
Yeah, a little bit, but I mean, she was making eyes at Trust, but in season one. But that was also how much of that was just his power rather than his age. Both,
Hmm.
neither. Yeah.
Hmm.
Who else can we?
A Vega and Eva. No.
No.
Vega and the check my work girl.
No, No, she's too young.
Yeah, I know, but
Oh, Lottie.
Oh, Lottie's too young too, and Lottie I wouldn't trust more like a thrower. Can you see Lottie with an EF, uh, let alone a captain?
yeah, no, I was going to say, yeah, she's a
Wait a
friggin'
minute.
EF hunter too. So
What about
Yeah,
Evelyn?
Evelyn and a Vega.
I think Evelyn would kill a Vega.
She chew him up.
Evelyn has this
Yeesh.
like Black Widow kind of energy, where I don't picture her shipping with anybody.
I don't either,
Yeah,
except
I
herself.
mean, except who?
Herself.
Herself. Well, yeah, her own ego.
Well, I'm hoping that we learn more about, because obviously, as you said, there are more clones.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
There are more
There's
posthumans.
more clones. There's more posthumans. There's more something lurking around every corner here. We still don't.
And I
know.
don't see us getting to a planet anytime in the near future.
Hmm.
I really don't.
I mean, I wonder if they're going to get to a planet and then, I mean, because Evelyn said that she was going to go to Trappist, but there were already other arcs that were
Somebody
headed
there.
there.
Yes.
Right.
So they would have been there ahead of her by the time she gets there.
Hmm.
I'm wondering if when when Garnet, I keep calling her Sharon, when Garnet shows up with the EF ship in tow, are they going to be like, oh, heck no, we aren't having any. Go find your
Yeah.
own planet.
Hmm.
So they might get there, but not be able to stay.
Exactly. I was kind of thinking
My
something like that too.
Yeah.
Because the show isn't called the Ark for, it's not called the planet.
Well, they must be getting kind of tired of being on that ship. I'll tell you that. They must be kind of tired.
Making all those
Even
right
even when they
turns
went
and
down
those
to the, even though they went down to the planet, only some of them, only for a short time. At least it was get off that ship for a
Yeah.
little while.
stretch your legs.
It's kind of like what I liked what Felix had said. Let's just take a moment,
Just take
Yeah.
a
and see what we
moment.
have.
Yeah.
Take a moment. And we didn't see a whole lot of Felix this episode, did we?
No, just a couple of times. One in the beginning
Um,
when he was acting out
yes.
some of his grief, and there at the end in Med Bay,
Yeah, involved with the
he's
chip.
asking what can he do,
Yeah.
Yes.
and Kabir says, "Well, you can go get Strickland and Griff."
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah, and he helped with the chip and talked to Kimmy. There you go. Kimmy wouldn't have really had any lines other than being at the funeral, being at the conference table, and then being
Mhm.
Yeah,
having conveniently had her database of Maddox's
that she
stolen
stole.
documents. That was
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Well, I'm
here's the
looking.
thing: why didn't she tell Garnett about all that? Why did she keep that a secret?
Yeah, you'd think that would be something she would have told Garnett. You're right.
Mhm. Mhm.
There's stuff in there she didn't want Garnett to know.
Mhm.
Maybe.
Yeah, I this seems to be, as on most shows, illogic in illogical decisions and not telling people things that you should tell them. I'm always yelling at the screen. Well, why don't you tell them?
Yeah.
Tell them you're there. Open your mouth.
Because it'll ruin the plot point.
Right. But I was really satisfied with this episode, in some ways, and frustrated in others. So
Yeah. Actually, there was one other thing I wanted to throw in about Ian, is that after the events of this episode, um, I worry. I mean, it's gonna throw him into some angst, which is gonna make him look more like Lane, which makes me wonder a little bit too. But or is he gonna go back to his happy-go-lucky here I am. It's one Lindless Tuesday, and we just go with it.
I
So,
don't know.
yeah.
We didn't see a
I
book.
Yeah, pass him a book. It's one Endless Tuesday to him. He's happy.
Yeah, I noticed we have a lot of people watching us that are in the chat rooms.
Mhm.
Feel free, guys, to hit us up with a question
Oh,
or a
yeah.
comment.
Yeah, please do.
We'd love to hear from you.
Hmm
You know you're watching because I can see you there.
Yeah, this for me, for and then I want to know what you think. Was it cathartic for you? Was it a wrap up of the Lane? Did that happen for you in this episode, or is there still some dag? Why did they have to kill Lane? Is there? Because actually, Liz, you were okay with Lane leaving the show,
Yeah,
leaving his character leaving, I believe.
yeah, I'm okay with his character leaving so long as we still have the actor on board because he's still such a phenomenal actor, and I love how he's transitioned to Ian.
Mhm.
I do like that.
What about you, Elizabeth? Was there?
I mean, in some ways, yeah, it was cathartic, and in some ways, I'm like, this doesn't solve anything. So but I'm very good at being of two minds of something at the same time too. So
Mhm.
I was gonna say, ask me again in another couple of episodes. We'll see how I feel
Well, you've
then.
got two.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, ask me halfway through season 3, and we'll talk then,
We'll
right?
talk.
I,
Yeah.
I,
Mhm.
it's a little bit of both. I mean, and I would say, to everybody in the chat room, what do you think? Was it for you? Was it more, cathartic and letting her let go of her grief, or was it also,
Yeah.
or was it,
Mhm. Mhm.
did it confound the issue?
And has Garnett finished her grief? And the grief is never
We
finished.
did never
But
finish.
is she able to um, move forward and having Bryce as her number 2, which is a totally different role for
Oh
Bryce?
yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, in his micromanaging and his nervousness, I saw back in the how he behaved in the pilot, where he was, so worked up about, I can't break the infinite loop. With this thing is stuck. I can't fix it. I don't know what to do, and he's freaking out. And I thought, well, um, uh, we haven't seen that much of it. He's gotten more used to all the stress that they've been thrown into, but I don't know that that means that he necessarily wants to lead.
And just because you're good at one thing doesn't mean you're good at another. Just because he's the
exactly.
most senior, he may not be the one to be the number 2.
Yeah, I mean,
And if
yeah, no, from my years as a programmer, I can say that when we had programmers who were promoted to management, and that was not the right skill set for a manager to have.
What about
Because
Trust being number 2?
oh my gosh.
no, we'll keep Bryce.
Oh
Bryce is fine.
my
Yeah,
gosh.
I don't know.
Let me just think about that for a minute. I had not let my brain think about this. You know, in a way,
It makes sense, doesn't it?
it does make sense. It would certainly keep him busy.
It would
And
keep him busy, but it would keep him that close to power, and he'd want more power.
But who
I don't
else?
think
Because
he'd
I
want to
don't
stay
think
there
Bryce
forever.
is suited to I don't think he's suited to that. But I can't think of any. Trust is I hadn't thought about him. Certainly not Alicia's not ready.
Oh God,
He's
no.
just not ready.
And Eva, no. Trust may be the most logical choice because his goal is to get there.
Yeah.
No,
Oh, look at Michael.
Michael's listening on that. I'm like, I think he's thinking the same thing I'm thinking. It's like,
No, no, no. Oh, Michael.
no trust. I can hear that in Michael's voice too.
Oh.
I Yeah, I'll have
Yes,
to.
Michael.
I'll have to think about that. So why, Liz? Why maybe?
For a lot of the same reasons that you came up with, I don't think Bryce is actually, I wouldn't say up for the task, but
Mm,
in his personality, then again, like I said, he might be hiding some stuff we don't know about. He's not as uh, dim bulb, as you like to put it, as
No.
people think he is. So he is smarter than that. But I'm
mhm,
not entirely sure he's up for the task. Alicia's way too young,
mhm,
um, and not experienced enough.
mhm,
To me, it almost does seem like Trust would be the logical person because,
mhm,
like you said, he wants the same outcome that we do. He wants to get there.
mhm,
I
mhm.
think Garnett has enough power that she can control him. So,
If she remembers to use,
uh, okay, yeah, I
ooh,
was
that's a
thinking
good
that a little bit
idea.
too. I mean, Kimmy is number two.
Hmm.
Hmm.
That would be a possibility as well. Kimmy is
Um,
more security, though.
Mhm.
That's why I didn't count Strickland as a number two.
yeah, but I mean, she's also. I mean, as she said, she was former GSA. She's definitely better in a crisis than Bryce might be as far as leading, and him, managing what's going on.
Yeah.
That's a cool thought. I like that. Thank you, Origami Hero. That's pretty cool.
Hmm. But do we know enough about Kimmy?
Well, do we know enough about anybody on the ship?
What
I mean,
what
No,
is
really.
what exactly is an EF hunter, and what were they going to do?
once they found them,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, it seems like back on Earth, with that whole discussion that Kimmy had with Lottie, back on Earth, they had their own viewpoints of discipline, and it wasn't for death. Because that's what Lottie said. Well, we're out here in space. Earth it doesn't exist anymore. We have to take things into our own hands.
We have to be our own justice. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think back on Earth, how it was originally created, is they would go through a court trial of some sort, and that kind of punishments like we know of, imprisonment or some such thing, like we already have.
Mhm. And but I think that kind of thinking and the fact that Kimmy follows that kind of thinking is good for command as well. I mean, it, sometimes I feel like Sharon might or Garnet might need a little more of that in her influence, and I feel like Lane was that. I'm really warming to this Kimmy idea. I like this. I
Well,
really
I
do.
know who would have I would say an aneurysm if they found out that Kimmy was number two would be Evelyn.
Oh yes. Oh
Oh,
God, yes.
Evelyn would, and actually, I mean, if
That
Avega
actually
found out
plays.
she was a former EF hunter, he might not be all that happy about it either.
Who?
Avega might
Oh,
not be happy to
Vega.
find out that
Uh,
Sharon just
That's
promoted an
true.
EF hunter to her second in
Hmm.
command.
yeah, but Vega, I think, has come to the realization they're all playing on the same field now for the same purpose.
Yeah.
And he knows that the command staff that originally created, the arcs and all that aren't there anymore. And it's a whole new system going forward.
Hmm. Well, circling back to Vega's cool jacket, which I really like.
Oh,
I
yeah.
want I want to see who else he has on his ship because we haven't seen too
We
much.
haven't seen much of his staff. Just Ristuch and Boyik. Is that the girl's name? Boyik?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's it so far.
Hmm. Hmm.
And obviously, she knows Ava.
Right.
Well, and his number two didn't turn out too well.
No.
No kidding.
And I thought it was interesting how, in so many ways, they made some of his characteristics echoes of Lane. I
Uh
mean, the
huh.
slick back hair, the insolence, the insubordination.
I thought I was
Hmm.
the only one that caught that. I thought I was just imagining it. I'm glad you caught
Hmm.
that.
Yeah, no, that I thought that was an interesting throwback there. So,
Hmm.
to
But
the,
at least Lane
like,
didn't stab.
he didn't stab in the back, but he did have an insurrection. I mean, he did have
Yes,
Hmm.
he did.
a coup, a mutiny.
Yeah.
So.
which is kind of what this other one was trying to do.
Yeah. Interesting. I hadn't thought about that. Thank you. Hmm.
Yeah, interesting echo there that you use.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
since both of y'all have seen the preview for next episode, I haven't. Um, you probably know. You obviously know a little bit more about what is going to happen. But did well, I don't want to spoil it for anybody else, so I won't ask questions about the next episode. I'll tell you what I'm hoping to see. I'm hoping to see more about Marsh and more of Kabir's story. I like Kabir and Strickland kind of Strickland helping her. I want to see more of that, and um, I wonder if they're going to do a little bit more about the grief for Lane as a kind of just a segue, a short segue, and kind of wrap that up. Um, there's so much more. I know we're going to see more of Kelly again, and again, I want more Evelyn, especially now after having her on our live chat. She was so much fun.
She
I
was
want to see.
great.
I want to see more of.
We have not had anyone on the live chats that has not
Mm,
been absolutely wonderful.
They've
You
all
know,
been
mm,
love
fantastic.
their character, love to
isn't
sit
that
and chat
incredible?
over the amount of time. They've all been extremely wonderful.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
Kind of people
is
you'd all like to have over for tea and coffee.
that is so unusual. I
It really is.
It
And
is
these guys are all talking to
unbelievable.
each other about us
They
too.
are.
It's just so incredible. It kind of blows my mind. I mean, I know Roger mentions it, Art 47E. I know he kind of mentions it occasionally, but it really does blow our minds.
Yes,
These people
it
are
does.
talking about our show and us
Hmm.
and the
Hmm.
questions that are asked. I think you guys do an amazing job.
Thank you. And that they want to ask us questions
I
Yeah.
is
know.
Yeah, that was
super
fun
cool.
too.
Yeah, who was it that turned that on you? Was it Evelyn that turned? Was it
Yeah, it was
Diane
Yeah,
that
Evelyn,
that
turned
was
it on you?
fun.
and then there was somebody else who asked who
Yeah.
asked questions. Yeah, who said,
Couple
"Well, what do
things.
you think?"
Oh, was it Sandra on Friday? Sandra Mitrovic,
It could have been
Could
her.
have been Sandra.
the
Yeah.
director.
Yeah,
I
and
feel
said,
like
"Well,
she.
what do you think?"
Yeah. I'm trying to think.
Um,
There's just been so many great. I
mhm,
mean, I've watched
mhm.
4 interviews so far this weekend even. And
Yeah.
you and Marcia, like this afternoon, I kept trying to think of a good question, and right around the time I started typing, you'd ask it. So I'm like,
I know.
what? Hey, I'm not, I'm not offended or anything. I think it's awesome. I just want to hear the answer. I want to know the information. So I don't care who
Mhm.
asks it. I think it's
Yeah.
great. It's just I felt like an idiot because I'm like, I want to ask something profound. And that's like, it was brilliant. And you guys just asked her the best questions, and she was having such a
Thank
great
you.
time answering them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The whole thing when I asked about you know what, and all of a sudden
No, 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 no. Duct tape. Duct
Thou
tape
shalt not
now.
know.
that was hilarious.
That is the first commandment of NDP. Thou shalt not do. NDP.
Fight Club. But yeah, that they have been all just incredibly wonderful, and
Mm-hmm.
we are so lucky, fortunate to be able to have them on so many, and it's because of our the fan groups, and they're in there. You know that, Liz.
Oh God, yes. Speaking of fan groups, Marsha, why don't you introduce yours real quick?
Yeah, I do the admin the ARC series fan group on Facebook, and come and join us. We discuss the show and have a super fun time.
And I'm the admin of the art fan group. And like Marsha said, come and join either one of us. We are a
Either one
sister
of
group
us.
and we love
Yes, we
working
are.
together. So we'd
Hmm.
love to have you.
Yeah, yeah. I don't have an official title. I'm just a fan at large.
that we
interacts
roped
with
in,
those groups.
tied down.
Superman.
We
Yeah.
roped in, tied down. You know, she can't go anywhere, but she has to be up here and answer the questions and talk. Thank you, Origami Girl. Your guest
Yeah.
list lineup has been fabulous.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
we have to say thank you to Michael Day for.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
Michael.
sure do. He is continuing to work. We have more people coming, which
Yeah.
is
Yes.
oh
Yeah.
we do.
yeah, and I know you'd like to make sure that we credit the people who wrote the episode that we're
Yes.
talking about.
Mhm.
So go
Um,
ahead.
This
the
one was written
writer.
by
Oh, go
Madeline
ahead.
Hendricks Lewin. This episode was written by Madeline Hendricks Lewin and was directed by Sandra Mitrovic.
And who we've had on the show,
And we
not
had on the show on
Sandra.
Friday, so if you have
Mhm.
not yet seen that interview, please look it up.
And
She
we
was
will be
really
having Madeline tomorrow, actually,
Yes.
good. This is true.
as a guest.
See, 5 interviews in 4 days. There you go.
Can you believe that?
It's
Oh my
simple
gosh.
because the last night's was a twofer with
What's a twofer?
Kevin Good and Derek Dressel, and they were fun.
They
I
were.
like listen to them talking computers, and I'm like,
I kept going. Okay, I am the mundane here. I appreciate what you're doing, and I love it. So I'm going to ask the general the questions of the normie people.
well, your questions were great too because they talked about the history of
Mhm,
special effects in a lot
mhm.
of ways, and how that tied into their careers. And I thought those were awesome questions.
Any of our guests, I would love to see back again.
Oh yes,
I can't
everybody.
think of anybody who doesn't have more that we would be
Oh,
having.
definitely.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Of course, there's more who we'd like to have. We hope.
Yes, we do hope. He
Mm-hmm.
is so busy, though. It's really hard to get him to
Yeah.
think if you're talking about who I think you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he's got that new baby coming, too. So,
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Well,
I think
that
I suspect who
explains
this
it.
is. Mm-hmm.
What did
what
you
was
say?
that?
I'm sorry.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about now too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I'll send a note here in the private chat.
and
So,
I want to thank you guys for doing such and having such a lively discussion and helping me think through episodes and ideas that I hadn't thought about, and it's fun and it enhances. I'm going to go back and watch it again now and look for things that
Yeah,
we've talked about.
definitely.
yeah,
You
you
picked
guys.
up things
Go ahead.
that I didn't think about, even though I watched the episode like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, okay, got to go back and rewatch that and I'll catch it. It's like
Mm-hmm.
last season, I'm not joking when I probably watched each episode 30 times. I mean, I was breaking it apart like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still, if I go back and watch it, we'll still catch things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's an amazing part of how much is in each episode, how much they write in is.
Yeah, yeah, and there's so much to take apart, to look at, and then to speculate where is it going.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes we hit the nail on the head, as you called me, Brittany, Marcia, earlier. That's exactly my new handle. I'm Brittany now. I did it again, but I mean, but there are times where you're like, that is not where I saw it going at all. There's so many times in this show where you just, you're sure you know where everything's going, and it does
And
not.
then it takes a left twist.
Way
Yeah.
different than you thought, and that is a huge part of the fun of it. That
Mm-hmm.
and bouncing around these ideas with everybody and wondering what's going to go next, and wondering if we saw what we thought we saw
Uh huh.
Right.
in just the data that we already have from the episodes
Mm-hmm.
we already have. So it's really cool.
And it's like for
Mm-hmm.
somebody like me who likes to sit and pick apart a program and figure out the ending before the ending is there, it drives my family nuts when I do that. They're like, would you just shut up and watch the program? Or let us watch the program at least. And then to have that turn on you and it being
Mm.
not at all what you expected is so wonderfully frustrating.
Yes,
It's great.
yes.
Well, I think it is incredibly brave of the showrunners and writers to have turned this show on their head, on its axis, and with killing off a major character is
Different.
incredibly daring, even in this day, to do, and to make it final and to say, yeah, he's gone.
Hmm.
Start thinking about somebody else because this character is gone. And because I'll give you an example. Heroes was started off as a really cool show. I loved Heroes. And then they made the mistake, in my opinion, and a lot of other people, of not killing off the character that they were going to kill off because that character had become popular.
Mm.
And that destroyed the show, in my opinion, because and to follow the path that they have laid out for themselves. Um, and I I I believe that they intended to do this all along, and maybe not. But once the decision was made, they stuck with it and said this is as Jeff Rigg, who wrote Manifest, who created the show Manifest, said the story is the story, and we're going to proceed with the story the way it was that they intended. So I appreciate that, and I will suffer through because I'm going to miss Lane, um,
Yeah.
and trust that they're going to have something wonderful down the line.
Yeah.
True. And I'm kind of starting to feel you cannot keep a much beloved character
Hmm.
because as much as we love that character, we as a fandom need to get shaken up a little bit to see what's coming next. I think that's why the Walking Dead franchise had it so well for so many seasons is you loved the character but you didn't know if that character was going to be alive in next week's episode. It kept you
Ah.
on your toes no matter what you were doing.
Hmm.
So it was nice to see in a way that we got shaken up a little bit with Lane.
Hmm.
Terrible that he died.
Yeah.
It's wonderful that we still have Reese Ritchie as the actor because I'd hate to
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
but it was a nice, okay, you guys think you're all settled in and all comfy and you're going to cruise the last two episodes. Nope, not happening, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Elizabeth, anything else in particular that you found that you liked or didn't like?
Oh. Oh. I'm glancing at my notes.
How many did you take?
Oh, only 3 pages this time, but like I said, I was scribbling them out. Still have all the blue ink on my hands. I guess, sometimes I will find a favorite line in every episode.
Mm.
And for this one, it may or may not be the title.
Oh, yes, I've already said that.
Actually, we mentioned that the title was at the very end. And as I was watching the episode, I completely forgot that was the title. So when she said it, it was a gut punch all over again.
Uh-huh.
But for me, I think the favorite line was when Ian and Garnet were standing looking at the wormhole, and he's like, "We can't keep going in circles forever. We need to take a leap of faith." And I thought, that kind of summed up the whole show for me in some ways. So
Yeah.
and this episode in some ways, and maybe what Garnet needs to hear now as
Take a
far
leap of
as
faith.
her relationship with him is
That could be.
relationship with him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I like that you came up with that one. I was coming up with more funnier ones that were.
I always laugh at the funny ones and they stick out in my head, but it's like I try to look. I also try to look for something that's kind of profound, and that
that was very profound.
and
I
the way
agree.
he
I like
delivered
that.
it, and just his enthusiasm and his and that was what drew her into him,
Yeah.
and yeah.
In other words, not the okay, let's do it.
Yeah. Oh, that was hilarious.
That
Oh,
was
what?
hysterical.
No, the wormhole. Yes.
That's what I thought you were going when you mentioned
No,
the
that I mean
wormhole.
that
That's
was
where I thought you were
hilarious.
going.
I laughed hard,
I laughed at that one too.
what my imagination caught on was we need to take a leap of faith. So yeah.
So what about you, Marcia?
Um, One thing I wanted more of Marsh in the dream state. I thought he
Yeah.
left a little bit too soon. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of him there with them, um, and maybe mix it up a little bit. That's all.
Little
Oh,
Garnett and Marsh.
Well,
there,
because
huh?
maybe Garnett could have been helped by Marsh to get through her, you know, grief or whatever it was for them. I would have liked to see more of their interaction anyway. Did they play table tennis? Did they
Okay,
fight?
so you're not thinking romantically. You're just
No,
thinking
no,
practically.
no, no. Yeah, just
Okay.
more of how they coped with that.
Yeah.
With not being with them, with just the three of them being there. You get annoyed with people. You don't know with your kids.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So how I would like to see a little bit more of how they dealt with just the three of them, because we knew once there was the two of them what was going to be the main crux,
Yeah.
right? The main focus of that. That's all. And I like Mars.
Oh, so
I
Oh,
do
can
I.
I can look at
oh yeah.
him anytime.
Oh yes. Have
Yeah.
you perchance browsed through his Instagram pictures?
Oh,
No,
Yadra.
I haven't. I'll have to
Oh,
look.
girl, do
He's
I have
yummy.
pictures for
Yadra
you?
is yummy.
Oh, well, I need to do that.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
I do remember Christy, I believe, who said that he is a big deal over in Serbia. He's very popular as an
Yes.
actor,
Mm.
apparently. And I didn't know that until she said it, and I hadn't explored that. But yeah, I want to see.
Oh yeah. I'll send you some of his stuff, or send you the link to his
Okay,
Instagram.
awesome.
Yeah, the James Bond thing with the martini, that was
Oh,
cute.
wasn't that hysterical? Yeah,
That
I,
was-
I have reposted what he put after I talked to him about that.
yes.
That was so funny with the shaving cream on his face and the two
Mhm.
cucumbers.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Oh yes. Was that whipped cream or shaving cream? If it's whipped cream, Marshall will just eat it.
I don't know what it was.
I
Either.
think it was probably shaving cream. But
Probably
yeah.
shaving cream, but
Yeah.
it was
Well,
funny.
and the dynamics of the relationships on the show are going to change, because now we've got Ian is going to interact more with Eva
Uh huh.
and Alicia, which we haven't really seen Alicia and Ian really interact very much
No,
yet.
not at all, really.
Yeah.
So how is that going to work? And
Yeah.
so
That will be an interesting dynamic, especially if
mm,
he is in engineering too. Yeah.
Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Like I said, if anything was real during that coma, what did he absorb? And does he have more knowledge now than Eva does?
Ooh.
Who's the one that's actually going to be, you know?
Yeah,
Mhm.
let's see. I mean, we don't know the entirety of his knowledge before either.
Beforehand, either. Exactly.
Because I mean, obviously he had to know. I mean, he took a literal crash course on arcade. On how to work in engineering. Obviously, I mean, because like they said, they escaped from the lab. They hooked up with some other clones um, who knew how to fly ships, and that's how they learned. I mean, but obviously, we learned a lot on the job.
It's very
Yeah.
similar parallel to Arc One, actually, if you think about
Mhm. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And somebody thought, I thought it was maybe one of you guys that thought that maybe Ian was actually a Gen 3.
I did. I originally thought Ian was.
Mm-hmm. Does that still
I
play
don't.
in?
I don't think so anymore, especially
Mhm.
when they did that whole series of both of them growing older, and now
Ah.
it makes me think: was he just acting a little bit more erratic? And there were some parts that were shot, I think, not necessarily in episode 6, but in episode 7, that almost made him seem scared and insecure.
Mhm.
The way they shot it, the camera shot it was like angled down, and he was kind of like sitting in almost a fetal position. Um, I thought that played into maybe making us, the viewers, think, what is he? But now, as he's come forward to being other things, and then after, we saw with the dream, he's definitely not.
Mhm.
Um, you know,
But then it was just a dream.
it was just a dream, but I don't think you can have a conjoined dream like that
Mhm.
where Sharon didn't feel that he was off. So
So they were connected in more ways than just sharing the dream. They were
yes,
connected spiritually.
correct. Because remember, she said that she felt his lips when he kissed her, drawing her
Mm-hmm.
back,
Yeah.
Yes.
and
I
that's
thought
why
that was,
she had to die, or one of them had to die to break.
yeah.
They were too connected to each other.
I thought that was kind of funny in that I thought it was a reverse Sleeping Beauty, where she went back to sleep when he kissed her.
Okay,
That's
that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
But yeah, I mean, they obviously have some kind of connection, and how well that will persist and what will develop is what I'm looking forward to seeing. Yeah.
I hope it does continue on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would like to
this.
have them both have a stable, loving relationship.
Yeah.
Because I think Sharon does need that, or Garnett does need that in her life
Oh
as a balance to being the captain with all this chaos.
yeah.
I think she kind of needs just a safe space to go and argue with your significant other or be comforted by your significant other, almost in a way that Ava and Bryce are.
Mhm.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of weird when Christy was talking about this episode, and she said, I guess this was on After the Arc, where she Garnet watches Ava and Bryce and watches them, they're in relationships, watches Angus and Alicia, and she thinks they're making bad decisions. And I'm like,
Hmm.
I didn't see that. I don't.
Yeah.
They make human decisions, maybe. I wouldn't call them bad.
Yeah, I heard her say that too, and I wasn't quite sure what
Yeah,
she meant by it.
maybe she meant that it wasn't. They weren't. She thought they weren't as clear headed as she thought they needed to be.
Now,
And from
is
that
she
standpoint, she thought it
referring to she as in herself or she as in Garnett?
Well, she was referring to Garnett. She said Garnett is watching these other
Okay.
people on the ship having relationships, and she, meaning Christy, meaning Garnett,
Maybe
she
because
thinks
she's a clone and has never fully had that human family dynamic.
right, right, which was made very clear at the beginning of the season when she gave the pep talk.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
now I think later on she gave another speech that you're my family.
yeah,
Arc is my family. I
yeah.
think she's kind of come fully around to that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, um, I'm thinking we probably just about covered everything. Wouldn't you think?
Hmm.
Yeah, we
I
covered
think
a lot.
so. Great to
Yeah,
sit. Great chat. Yeah.
Why don't we give grades?
Oh,
Marcia, what do
yeah.
you think?
I will give this a B plus.
A B plus. Write it down in case I forget it.
Okay.
And Elizabeth, what do you think you're giving?
Oh, can I give different sub parts of the thing?
No.
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 Oh man, visually A plus.
Ooh.
Plot B to B minus because of some of the holes and some of the just
Mhm.
it was just felt so rushed as far as we just saw these tiny little snapshots of 50 years of life.
Well, you can't
Um,
fit 50 years of life in 40
I
some
know
minutes.
in 42 minutes. I know it's really
Yeah.
hard.
Is that an average of?
I'm gonna give it a B to a B plus.
Pick one.
B. B.
Okay, you're not going to be the one who's going to make a decision as to whether 9 billion people die.
Yeah, no.
Right. This is okay. Fine. A B. All right. I said
And
it. I'll stick with it. It's a B.
mine's a B plus. So,
Okay.
so overall, a good solid B.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very much so. And
Mhm.
like I said, visually through the roof. I just,
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
with the costuming, the makeup,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
the funeral explosion at the beginning,
Mhm.
the wormhole and the nebula, and yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, Michael chimed in.
Oh,
Oh
gosh.
yeah, in the
It's a
chat
B.
room. Let
All
us
right.
know. Chat
That's a B.
room. Yes.
B. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Michael.
Yes, or Origami Girl, everyone else in the chat room, let us know what
Yeah.
grade you would give it, what you thought.
Like I said, we are definitely a good solid B.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
2 more episodes.
Yep.
Steel yourselves.
Oh,
Steel
I know.
yourselves.
I know. And just in coming up, like I said, we had already mentioned tomorrow, we're having Madron Hendricks Lud, who was a co-producer and writer for the arc. In fact, she was a writer for this last episode. She'll be tomorrow at noon, well, Pacific time. On Friday,
Less on the East Coast. Yeah.
yeah, on Friday, we're having Luka Janovic, which he was Resic on the arc, and I believe he was our treacherous number 2.
Mhm.
And he will be joining for a live interactive chat at 11 o'clock Pacific time.
Yes.
So definitely go check out NDB Media and
Mhm.
all of the different upcoming things they have. You can find all of the programming, including if you missed anything or any of our either previous chats with some of the actors or the writers, or even some of our old episodes of some of this stuff. You can go back and check.
Absolutely.
I've actually
Yes.
started watching some from season 1.
Oh, have you?
Yes, because I wasn't here for that, and it's been so much fun.
Oh, hasn't it? It's
Mhm.
it's great.
And the Origami Girl gave it a B plus.
Yeah,
Oh, yes,
Origami
there she
Girl
is.
says
Okay,
B
B
plus.
plus.
Really like this episode. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yay.
thank you. We'll put
All
that in
right.
our grading list here.
In fact, I think it's almost sliding into B plus range because we're
Yeah,
at
I think it
I think
plus.
Michael, I think you and I have been outvoted. It is rounding up to a B plus.
Mhm.
At least I'm not getting ragged on the fact that I'm always voting A's.
Don't worry, you'll probably hear about it next time.
Oh, I probably will. Ha 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 ha. Yes, Michael. Instead of saying it, why don't you come on screen and say it to our faces?
And Michael, the boo, that's about 5 weeks too early for Halloween, so you better keep rehearsing. Boo.
Oh, good one, Elizabeth.
I'll be here all week, folks.
Oh boy. Oh Lord. Yes. No. Anywho, I
Oh,
think.
thank you all.
Oh, okay.
I'm decorating already. Oh well.
I'm decorating already.
They're ahead of you. So yeah, you're not the first.
Are you already starting to buy Halloween candy though? That's the issue.
Oh, see, I have to. Where we live, we actually, my husband is very data driven and keeps a spreadsheet of how many trick or treaters we get,
Oh, I used to do that too.
and we get a lot. I mean, I
Wow.
think the most we've ever had was 394.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
Origami
thank
Girl, it's
you,
been
Origami
fun with
Girl.
you
Thank
too.
you. Keep chiming in. Keep coming back.
Yes, thank you for
Awesome.
coming.
So I have to pace myself with buying the candy. So it's like every time I hit a grocery store,
I guess Michael's going to be buying his next week.
it's next week.
814.
800.
Yeah,
Oh, no,
yeah.
you have us beat.
Yeah.
All right,
I,
better you
We
than
used
I
me.
to
would
be
be
high.
hiding in my house from 814 trick or
That's a
treaters.
lot.
We
Wow.
used to be really high when my kids were little,
Wow.
but the
Yeah.
last 10 or 12 years since they've grown up, it's dwindled off and dwindled off. I think one year we had none. Last year we may have had two or three.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
all of the kids in our area all grown and moved away. I think my kids, which are young adults now, they're
Yeah.
22 and 19.
Yeah.
And they are, of course, working and other things. I think they're the youngest kids in the area at the moment.
Yeah. Oh, I've also heard parents say that the trunk or treat has really changed the way things
Yes.
have
Yeah.
gone too. Is that kids will just go to one of those events, trick or treat all around a parking lot, and
Be
and
done.
go home, and
Mhm.
so yeah, we've seen a decrease over the last couple of years. That 314 was definitely pre-COVID.
Oh,
Mhm.
definitely.
Yeah, but I mean, I think last year we still had at least 200. So yeah, you do
Okay,
that.
Michael, is that what you're saying? You do trunk or treat or you do
Yeah,
something else?
yeah, Michael, do you trunk or treat? And don't you drive a Tesla? So doesn't that mean you actually have a trunk and a frunk in the front?
A front?
Isn't that what they call it? Because the engine is no longer in the front, so it's a front trunk, so they
I
call it
love
a
that.
frunk. I was at a car show and I heard that term thrown around, and so I thought
That's
Oh, I
news
love
to
that.
me.
a frunk. And then there was someone else in our neighborhood who was getting ready to go to a potluck or a family event. Ah, you do trunk or treat? Okay.
Okay.
Um, there was someone in our neighborhood with a Tesla who was putting a casserole in the front of their car. They lifted the hood and I thought, oh, I saw that on MythBusters where Alton Brown was on and cooked a meal on the engine of the car, and then I'm like, oh wait, it's a Tesla. There's no engine in there. That's their trunk.
It's an old throwback to VWs.
Yep, yep.
Right.
All
Okay.
righty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, unless there's anything else, I'm
That's
thinking
good.
of ending us. So thank you all for coming. We
Mm-hmm.
appreciate it. And definitely join us again. Be
Yep,
Yes.
safe.
We'll
yep.
see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.